Okay, welcome in everyone to another episode of the NML Pickleball Podcast. We're here, we've got video content without a guest. I've got Jeremy Comazetto to my right. How's it going, Jer?
Oh, not too bad, Christopher. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. And you know how we get to start the podcast today? We have some sponsors to talk about.
We do.
So I'm wearing a shirt that's from Drop Shot District Clothing. They've got a bunch of cool merch. They've got a lot of fun shirts, hoodies, lots of apparel. They've got stuff for women as well. They've got mugs, all sorts of things. I got this one that says, what does it say again? I play pickleball and I know things. So thought that fit a little bit here. So go to Drop Shot District Clothing and check them out. Use code NML10, NML, and then 10, the number 10. Still trying to figure this out. So use code NML10 at checkout for a little bit of a discount. And we've also got another sponsor, Jer. I want to show the paddle. Go ahead.
No, I'll let you take the lead on this. You're an ad read guy.
This is One Shot Pickleball. So One Shot Pickleball is local. You can probably put it down, I guess.
It's a great paddle. I'll hold it up for a minute.
This is a local Pacific Northwest company. We've known them for a number of years now. Now, you've played with their paddles for how many years?
Since the end of 2019, I've been a one-shot player.
And I actually wasn't a one-shot player until a couple years ago because I didn't honestly, like, the paddles didn't fit for me well enough before. But I started using their Aero Pro Shot, which is one of the first paddles they had with the holes in the side. And now we've got these new Infinity Shot. The one that Jer was holding up was the elongated one. And I really, really like it.
Yeah, the Infinity Shot is honestly probably about my favorite paddle I've played with to date. I really like it. It's got good pop. It gives you good spin while keeping a decent amount of control. So very happy with it.
That is the most classic thing to say about a paddle. But it's true. I really like it because I was looking for something with some more pop. And this finally gives more pop and some real good spin. And I actually didn't find it was much of a transition at all to switch to it. So
that's a big endorsement because you're picky about your paddles. So
yeah. And you can use. We don't have a code yet, but you can use. I have a discount code. It's Ross ROSS all caps 10 ROSS 10. So there, we got a couple sponsors. We're shaking and moving.
Shaking and moving.
So this week it was MLP weekend, which is always. I think it's just more exciting. Is MLP MLP's just better, isn't it?
I think you like it a little more than me. I like it. I also like the regular weekends. It is exciting. I think I like catching a lot of the build up to it, like looking at the team building and stuff. The event itself is fun. I think you enjoy it probably a little more than I do, though.
Yeah, I like this weekend, like even on Saturday and Sunday, because we're Pacific time and it's East Coast time. And it was in Atlanta, so it's East Coast for us. So I'm waking up, and if I wake up sometimes I wake up 6:30. I'm like, crap, I can't. I want to watch, and so I just start watching, and then I don't actually go back to sleep because I want to see what's going on. And I don't find that's the case for, let's say, a PPA that starts at 10 a.m. in Atlanta, and that's 7 a.m. for us here. I don't really care to watch the first, second round matches, or I don't care so much about it that I need to turn on my phone.
I guess that's one of the advantages of MLP is that the matches all mean more. It is hard to get jacked up for a PPA first round matchup or even second round matchup most of the time, where a lot of these MLP matches, because everyone basically does matter, it's a little more exciting, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's what it is for me. I think every match matters. So the thing that I still wonder is the 6 events. We have 6 events. I thought a couple years ago that 1 event was great, and then 3 events. Are we getting to too many? I'm still pretty jacked up when it's 6 events. I don't know about you and how you feel about, if they're going 8, 10, 12 events. How that is.
Yeah, I think at some point they'll need to change the format if they want to keep our attention for that many. And by that I mean I know there's a super final or whatever, but especially now that the Premier Challenger isn't a thing, it's each kind of almost a one-off event that is like the same now. So like it's kind of interesting because there's only 3 with this variation of teams. But if you don't make those kind of mean something, like you're building up to an overall playoffs, or like you have a Premier Challenger level standings, like if there isn't more intrigue, I think at 6 events you're near capping out. So if they want to move to like that 10 plus event range, I think they've got to find a way to make it more interesting.
Yeah, and I think going back to what you said, part of what I like so much is I just like to see how the team building stuff is like going to be, how it actually plays out, and whatever theories you have where you're right, where you're wrong. I think that's super fun to see how that plays out. And if you do have the same teams like they plan to, and they've gotten rid of the Premier Challenger stakes this year, which I do think might take away a little bit of the juice of those next 2 events, but you need something to lead up to, because you can't have 12 events like this that mean nothing really in the grand scheme of things, other than the players get prize money and the owners are like, look, I'm a good owner.
Yeah, and speaking of the team building, they're moving away from the draft. Are we clear yet kind of what the rules are around that, or how that's going to work?
I don't think we are. They're saying it's free agency, and they're talking about it, whatever their guaranteed contracts are, like and they'll have like a salary cap, and then you go and your contract is what your salary cap hit is. So if someone, say, Guang, who is actually not making $500,000, so we should correct a couple things there. He's making a little less than that. Lauren Stratman probably is making a little more than the 500 we said on the Layup podcast. But let's say whatever those numbers are, that's your cap hit. And then it sounds like teams will be able to bid on players. So if you want to pay someone more than what their cap hit is, then that you can pay for more, and that will be whatever their cap hit is for your team.
Yeah, I'm just going to be curious because MLP, in my opinion, generally doesn't do a good job of advertising these things and getting out how the rules and format and things are going to be. And I noticed something that really started just happening with the last draft they had here was people were doing their own mock drafts and things. Like there's finally some hype, but I think with their format, like something that's become big in a lot of pro sports in terms of media attention and stuff is the off season. So I'm curious whether they're going to have like an official kind of free agency period with this like dead zone. Are the rules going to be clear to kind of allow fans to see how it works? They can try to figure out how they would build their own team, or is it just going to be nobody kind of knows what's happening and suddenly teams are getting announced? Like,
yeah, I think that's so true, because this was the first season that we saw Discord groups doing mock drafts. We saw all sorts of people doing mock drafts, which is exactly what
not just crazy people like us.
Yes, not just crazy people like us. And I think that's so important, because people love mock drafts. And we see it in football, see it in basketball. People love drafts. People love free agency too. But if you don't know how the rules work, and we talked about this before, and you'd said, well, the reason why we're actually seeing mock drafts is because people know what's going on. For season 1, it was put together so quickly, no one had any time to do it. And if they do that again this year, it's not going to be good for them, because they need to be able to build hype and build discussion. That's how you're going to build a fan base and get investment from people, and people want to tune in that way.
Yeah, and I have at this point no confidence that they will. Like, we had rule changes like for this event, and I understand a lot was going on leading up to it in the background, but I don't think most, if anybody, was really aware that they were taking away the freeze.
I can't even understand how they couldn't just publicly put out they didn't even put out something on Instagram or Twitter saying they've changed the scoring. How is that even possible?
I don't know. Like, we're trying to be a professional sport, and they've got a long ways to go on a lot of things. We'll let producer Alyssa maybe even comment on that. But I just think that they've got to get way better at announcing these things and creating hype around it, and also awareness. Like, one thing that I know you in particular have liked to go after the PPA on is the lack of transparency, but at least with the fans, there's a lot of that same transparency issue and lack of communication on the MLP front.
But what's more insane for MLP is that these are things that would just benefit them if they just took the time to do it. Like putting out, making sure your fans understand what the rules are of a tournament. It is completely in their, like, that's in their best interest to do that. So
for sure, we're probably supposed to be doing a results kind of based podcast, and we're now how many minutes in? So
people like the banter, apparently. Okay. Well, I want to actually ask you. This is something I think people are curious about. Did you like the new scoring system?
I honestly am still trying to figure out where I come out on all of it. I think it was in some ways less gimmicky than the old freezes. It certainly enables for a team to kind of mount a comeback when you don't freeze to side score, but in some ways only having to win on your serve, but like there not being other kind of arbitrary freezes perhaps makes sense. Again, because I don't like change, even though they've changed it how many times. I originally didn't love it, but I think in a lot of ways it makes more sense than other like variations.
Yeah, I liked it. I think I liked it more than you did initially, but I like that a couple of things I liked about it is that it at least, it just makes more sense intuitively that you can tell someone you only score on your serve to win the match. Otherwise, it's like everyone gets a point. I think if the whole point of rally scoring is to be simple and make it easier to understand for new people coming into the sport, then having it that straightforward is much better. And the second thing is that, yeah, it probably makes the comebacks a little too easy, but it's better than that 2020 freeze that they had before where you're suddenly scoring on your serve, because in the 2020 freeze, it gives the advantage to the side, the side that just gets, that gets the return, like that gets the side out to make it 2020, right? Whereas here it keeps the advantage at least on the side of the part of the team that's up. So I think it intuitively just makes a little bit more sense. I found that I didn't miss very much from it, and it creates a little bit more drama with, you have every team when you go side out, you go match point, match point, match point. Like you constantly have these match points, and I don't know. I thought it was good. I think it makes sense. I hope they just stick with something.
Yeah. If, you're talking about intuitively, if we're going to do rally scoring intuitively, should it just be rally scoring all the way? Why do we have a freeze?
Yeah, I think that is one where I don't say it like this, but you get away from what the spirit of the game is, which is like score on your serve, if you're not scoring
but we're not doing it the whole way.
I know, but to finish off a match where you can just have someone hit a drop in the net, it feels really anticlimactic, or where you can just a team, you're up 21-20, and then I don't know. I think if you just can have a side out to win the match, it's a bit anticlimactic.
I prefer traditional scoring. I just don't wonder if we're going rally scoring, do we have to commit to it?
Possibly. It may be that they're walking too fine a line and they should just go and say this is it.
My preference would be they actually, I think, do rally scoring the whole way and have perhaps a higher score, or they move to maybe best 2 out of 3 games to 15 or something. Find a happy medium. They're trying to have this product, I think we looked at maybe 27 or something as well. I think there's other options that you could play with where maybe it's more pure than this almost rally scoring, but not.
Do you know, is beach volleyball, can you win on a side out? Do you know?
I'm pretty sure, but that actually we need a fact check. It's tough when you don't have a producer with on the other side.
Yeah, where is she right now? She sets it up and then she's not here. It's a tough look for the producer. I might get in trouble for that.
Okay. Wow.
Why don't we start? Why don't we talk about the actual?
Oh, now we're ready to move on.
So I thought I think I've got my stuff written, but I haven't put it in anything. I don't know if you've got anything written yet.
I've started.
Okay, so we've got takeaways. Why don't we just start with some of our takeaways and get in there? I think you wanted to talk about. I mean, we had Orlando Squeeze win over DC pickleball team in the first event of season 2. It's a really close match. DC actually had a match point where Christian Alshon had an overhead, and they didn't end up winning the point. Orlando wins 3-2 in a Dreambreaker. But what was interesting is that both of these teams made a trade with each other in the first round of the draft, and both end up in the finals.
Yeah, and I thought that was really interesting. You seldom see a trade that I think you can say benefited both teams, but I think in this case it probably did. It was a smart move by Anna Bright when Orlando wanted to draft her, saying, hey, I think 3's too high, like trade down. They trade down to 5. DC, on the other hand, I think anytime you get a chance to get like a Ben or Riley, obviously it's not Ben, but you get Riley, it's a smart move to jump up and grab them. They took advantage of that. And they're two of the better constructed teams. Obviously, the swing for Orlando was actually the Rohrbecker pick, which Anna came under a lot of kind of fire questions. I think even we asked some questions, but that one kind of hit it for them. And then, Riley was good for DC, but what actually really, I think, separated DC was teams allowed them to get the Kawamotos sisters together there again.
Well, you know what I think about the Kawamoto sisters, and I think DC being able to get Jade in the third round, they benefited from the Kawamotos with the ATX team last go around. They had a good third event, an okay second event where they won 2, but they didn't make the playoffs. I think like the Kawamotos not having incredible success the last MLP, and it clouds people's vision in these small sample sizes. And the Kawamotos are also just getting better, it looks like. Like they might be putting more time in. They're playing more offensively. I think especially Jackie's playing more offensively. And they went 5-0 this weekend.
Yeah, well, it's not surprising. They're a team that I kind of expect to make, if they're not on Annalie's side, Championship Sunday when they're playing together, and at least make the semis and probably pick up a medal. So you've got that team playing together in MLP. I would expect them to have, obviously they're not always going to go 5-0, but I would expect them to win at least 75-80% of their matches or more in MLP. They're just going to be just about your best women's team.
Well, and then again, if you looking at where you get value, Riley, I think also was he probably slipped a bit from a value perspective, at least in some people's minds. Like Orlando, it seems like a no-brainer at number 3. You should be taking Riley. He's an argument to be taken over Anna Lee for sure.
Yeah, and I think so. But interestingly, I think we saw again, I know that the Slice didn't have the weekend you want, but I still think we saw the difference between Ben and Riley this weekend. Riley in that championship, not able to seal the deal. Did Ben drop a doubles match this weekend? No, yeah, that's the difference. I just think Ben's level of dominance is that much higher. With that said, obviously Riley had a pretty good weekend, but I do think being able to pair him with the Kawamotos was a real boost to that team. But I think we're overall still seeing that alpha male in that first couple picks at the premier level is going to go further than a female.
I think the big question, Jer, is does Riley Newman have the clutch gene? It's my sports talk question of the day.
I don't know if he does. We'll see.
Is that all? Is this actually a thing? That's like he lost to Kyle Yates, Vivian David in last season. Here he is with Jade losing to Rachel Rohrbacher and Zane Avertel. It's got to be just too small sample size to really.
Yeah, I think when you look at the MLP, a single game rally scoring to 21, it's tough to talk about clutch gene at this point. I just think it does. We, ended any discussion that Ben isn't the best, but I think it's another data point on that there's a difference because it doesn't seem to matter too much for Ben in that it's rally scoring to 21.
Yeah, and I think that he's just and really if you look at his results, Riley's not just dominating. You take away his higher end, like his Matt Wright partnership, you take away his female part, like I don't know, you don't have a top mix partner. He's not there in Championship Sunday every single time, which, of course Ben's playing with Annalee and Colin, but he's there every single damn time.
Yeah, no, and that's why it's so impressive and it continues to be.
And of course, like this is one event, you make
one thing on kind of, we were talking about Ben and we were talking about the Kawamotos. Was Ben passing on Jade Kawamoto one of his big mistakes?
Yeah, I actually read. Well, no, I didn't write about this. I wrote about Ben being like, "Is Ben Johns a poor GM?" And it was kind of a joke. Like I'm titling it that for our article. But is Ben Johns a crummy GM? And it's not true. But he missed like big time not picking, like passing on Jade. He had 2 spots to take Jade Kawamoto, and he took Jesse and Lacey.
Well, and you look at last time what happened. He picked the right girls, but Etta and Megan both kind of fell to him, and he ended up with one of the better women's teams in the whole MLP last time. And that if you can give Ben that third team that is dominant along with the 2 he's on, it becomes a real problem for teams. But we saw this time that he didn't have the same success.
Well, I think what Ben did this time, which didn't work well, is that, again, he drafted, assuming he made the picks, which no one has indicated he wasn't the one who made the picks. But the players that were drafted after, at least Jesse and Eric, were drafted for Ben. So Jesse, he knows that. Jesse, she fits really well. She can be really steady. She's going to be comfortable with him taking a ton of court and mix and letting him do his thing. That's almost a guaranteed win. I'm also going to pick Eric Lang. He's a nice guy, and he's a really good right side male for me. I think I can win 95+% of the time with Eric. So I'll pick him. So what does Ben do? He goes 8-0 in the first event. But the problem is that you pick Jesse and Eric. Jesse can't really play singles. And then Eric is competent-ish, but subpar as a male in singles. And so you add those to a Dreambreaker. But I think where it all goes wrong is that he probably picks Lacey Schneeman as his Megan Dizon. So Lacey Schneeman is no longer Boeing engineer. She goes full-time to pickleball. I'm banking on her upside and that we're going to get this growth and she's going to be more consistent as a player. And it hasn't happened yet for Lacey. So if Lacey actually hits like Dizon hits, maybe we're talking about a different situation. Or if Eric and Lacey get that match point in the quarterfinal, maybe we're talking about something a little bit different here. But I don't know if the process was quite as wrong as maybe it appears from the outside.
Yeah, that's fair. On the Lacey and Jesse, I was watching at one point. Who do they have playing the left and right there?
They had Lacey playing the left, I think.
Okay, because
I got it.
Because I thought, well, we can talk about that another time.
What?
I thought I saw at one point Jesse playing the left.
They might have switched around, and I honestly didn't watch a ton of those women's matches for the slice, so I'm not going to say for sure, but I thought they had Lacey at the left at times. And I noticed, I don't know, Lacey misses a lot, and it's a problem. At that level, she misses a lot. But yeah, I think the Jade Kawamoto thing was a miss for him for sure.
Well, yeah, he didn't go Jade, and then if you were going upside, I mean, there's some other picks that probably, Tyra Black continues to ascend for sure.
Well, yeah, Rachel Rohrbacher was just off the radar, and it would have been almost wild to take her at that spot. But as you saw that value, she would have, at this point, the way Rachel Rohrbacher played in Atlanta, you'd have to think that at the start of the third round, that would actually fit now if you were redrafting. You'd 100% take Rachel over Lacey, right?
Yeah, you would probably go that way. And I know you actually heading into the draft were fairly high on Rachel, but I think it would have been hard to justify taking her third round. Like, I know Anna went and got her, but I think that would have been a tough one to justify. But Tyra was more in that area.
Yeah. I think, Rachel, I think she looked really good off of one PPA where she played with Johnny Goldberg and played on the left and mixed. So I think I had her as probably a first round challenger player, but did not have her premier. But what's interesting is you were higher on the squeeze than I was, and we sort of met in the middle on our B draft grade for the squeeze, but I think you actually had a higher grade for them overall than I did.
I was fairly high on them because we really liked Rachel's upside. Obviously, Anna's a proven commodity, and I thought going Anna, Andre, and Vane, it gave them a pretty solid team, and that kind of bore out. I think something that kind of worked out for them is Andre, he might not be like that top tier, but he actually was, I think he's pretty close to a lot of those guys that went in the first round. Like, I'm not sure how much difference there is between an Andre and a Julian Arnold or James Ignatowicz. Like, maybe those guys are a little better, but Andre is like right there. So you're now pairing him with a Anna Bright. So you have the stronger female than the teams that went the other way. And then, so much of this is situational. Like, now you're like, oh, should Ben have taken Rachel? And maybe that was the pick, but Rachel ended up in a good situation. And you look at the squeeze, Zane Navitral was the opposite. We had people saying that he was a challenger player after last season where he went on Frisco, which was the worst situation kind of possible, and then he fell probably not substantially too far, but he fell a little far and showed that he is still definitely a premier level player in the MLP format.
Yeah, I mean, Zane being a challenger player was completely ridiculous, but you're right. I think Rachel fell into a really good situation. I don't know if Andre, I'm always a little higher on Julian in MLP than just as an MLP first round pick than you are. I think that's not quite fair. Maybe James Ignatowicz more on par for MLP. Julian showed up pretty well this weekend.
Yeah, Julian had a good showing. I don't know. I think in that scenario, I almost, it's funny because I was a big go get the guy early, but I think after the top few guys, there is some thing to going and getting an Anna Bright and being able to pair her with an Andre, because I really think an Andre can hang with a Julian Arnold, and we saw that. Julian had a great weekend. I'm glad that he ended up being able to play. I don't know if you want to talk about that at some point, but he had a great MLP, but I still just think it's that much of a difference between a Andre and a Julian. I'm getting a little more, but we saw that they had an all-time, by the way, we're talking about those two guys, singles rally. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, Julian and Andre. Yes, the firefight in there, Dreambreaker was probably the turning point in that match. So, I mean, Andre played really solidly this weekend, and I think you're right on the difference. You have your JW, Riley, and Ben, and then after that, how much of a difference are you getting? I mean, JW is even questionable at that idea, like in that category.
I think JW talent-wise is in that top echelon. I'm not sure how this MLP format, like, where he fits in, to be honest. And again, if you want to talk about probably poor drafting, Columbus has to be up there.
Did you see that they are now partnered with White Castle? That's why they're the Columbus Sliders.
I did. I don't think it was announced before this weekend, even though they were going by Sliders, and I was very confused why suddenly they were the Sliders, but...
Yeah, no, terrible drafting by them, and it didn't work out. I wanted to go back to what you said. We might as well talk about it now as Julian and Lauren and them. They were supposed to miss MLP. News came out that they were not showing up, and then it eventually shifted, and they were then showing up to Atlanta, and so. It was a bit of a weird thing because Julian and Lauren are two of the people that have gotten huge benefit from playing from their PPA contract. They're going to make huge money.
Well, you say two of the people. They probably came out, both of them, but especially Lauren maybe took the biggest jump of anybody in terms of where you look at what other players got and what she's getting.
Yeah. Again, we on the Layup podcast had it at $500,000. It's actually like, I think our old friend Jimmy Miller scoffed at our info there, and it was a little bit off. She's making more than $500,000, which is a ton of money for anyone.
Well, I think she's top 3, definitely top 5 highest paid woman in pickleball.
So so then what are they doing? Then we have some info on what they were doing.
Well, they put out a statement.
Okay, they put out a statement. I don't think the statement gave everything that.
But I think you can even read between the lines. I think they know that they made out like bandits in that contract negotiations, and they were terrified about doing anything that could invalidate or get their PPA contracts canceled. Was my read on it, because I think if you're going to look at contracts getting canceled, those have to be two of the first ones that would come up.
Yeah, so it sounds like they were getting some advice from their agents and or lawyers that they should not play, or at least make sure that that their contracts would be honored before playing. So then it comes out that they're not going, but probably with the intention of that was just to make sure that those contracts would be honored. And once they were assured of that, then they're like, okay, we're coming.
Yeah, and I think that was probably a good choice. They, I think, would have made a number of enemies probably for life, I think.
Well, with Thomas Shields on the Dinks podcast, he read the statement from one of the team owners saying that, I forgot exactly what it was, but it ended
I think it said that they should be playing in ski masks or something like that. Yeah, go ahead.
I just also thought it's funny in the statement that they were very complimentary of their very experienced agents, and I think it was because their agents were under a lot of fire from going, what the heck are they doing with this? But I think, they were just being abundantly cautious, it looks like. So not a big deal, and they showed up, and Julian had a good semifinals appearance.
Yeah, he does seem to play better in MLP, and when you see the numbers, it makes sense why he went PPA, but it was always funny that he was going PPA because he seems to perform substantially better in the MLP format.
Yeah, when you see some of the numbers, you understand why you go PPA over MLP.
Got to get that big.
So I think one of the other takeaways that we had was, and you're going to be writing about this, which is and we touched on it a bit, which is that there were 3 upside women in the Premier division that all made the semifinals, like 3 risky picks. Miami took Tyra Black to pair with Federico and Tyson, and then they took Mary Brasha, which is still up in the air.
But then actually you want to talk about, like, outside women. Allison Harris went undrafted, which I thought at the time, somehow we didn't have her on our notable undrafted players, but she, right before the draft, put together some good APP performances. I thought it was wild a team didn't take her in the second half of that Challenger draft, but she goes undrafted in Challenger, and then she's on a team making the semifinal.
Yeah, I mean, geez, like, I think there were 4 women in Challenger that you really might want to pick up. Susanna Barr, Tina Pisnik, Yana Newell, Rich Kina, and Jillian Braverman. But all those 4 made the playoffs, not surprisingly. So then where are they going to go? Maybe you're looking at like Bobby Yoshiro, who fits pretty well, but where's your upside? So they go with Allison Harris. It sounded like she had scrimmaged with them for, in the previous days, and they liked what they saw. And so they thought, heck, we'll go with this person. And man, that's to have not just Tyra Black, who Tyra, by the way, was playing like a beast with Allison.
Yeah, she looked good out there.
I'm so impressed with how she looked, and I wasn't sure how well her doubles game would progress, but does she take court better than Annalie Waters? She takes court better than anyone, I think, outside of Annalie for sure.
Well, Tyra has to have the best movement, I think, now of any current woman playing.
Yeah, I think so. Like, she's really like. She just moves so well, and she's able to actually cover the court like a left-sider, like you want a left-sider to do, but so few of the women can.
For sure.
And then it helped Allison, I think, be able to, be as solid as she could be there. She didn't play amazingly, but what do you expect? She's barely played pickleball, and she's coming into this situation, never being an MLP. I mean, she almost won a couple matches early. Their first match of the day on Friday went to 27-25 or something like that. She likes to speed up maybe a little too much from like 6-8 feet behind the kitchen, but I think those are things that I'm sure we'll figure out as time goes on.
For sure.
So you also had Vivian Glosman making a semifinal with Arizona, and of course, like Rachel Rohrbacher. So, all works out for these upside women so far.
Yeah, obviously small sample size. I do think it shows that probably with those later women picks, you're better to go with some upside than kind of the proven commodity that it maybe just isn't there. I think that's something that, like, probably let's be honest, there's been an explosion on the female side of the game in talent over the last year. Like, I don't even know how many fold it's improved, because I think something that, nobody really took a gamble late on women in the first draft, and I'm not sure how many women were out there, but probably some teams, if they had a chance to do it again, would have tried something different. Like, the kind of veteran picks late didn't pan out, I think, in the first season.
Yeah, I think that's right. And Miami, I think, probably screwed up. Well, they clearly screwed up, I think, at this point. They took Mary Brasha, and it might work out okay for them.
Yeah, we don't know.
No, but I think that if there's like Rachel Rohrbacher, I think, was in the conversation for them. That's something we do know. And if they have Rohrbacher over Allison Harris, what does that look like this event where they made a semifinals with Allison Harris?
Yeah, and I think you look at what did the Black Rohrbacher team look like come that final event in December.
That's a lot of power on one side of the court. Miami has to be. I mean, if things go, there's no premier challenger distinction, so I don't know how much they really care. But it's if when that option was there to be taken and they were considering it, it's gotta hurt a little bit to not have gone that route.
Yeah, you gotta have a little regret there.
But I think the other thing when it comes to like,
though Miami's draft much improved from their challenger season.
Did they like switch GMs or something after the first season draft? It almost seems like they had someone maybe competent dealing with their draft who wasn't drafting himself as a non-pro player.
Hey, if I'm Johnny Goldberg, I might think about drafting myself.
Johnny would have been a better pick for himself in Challenger than Matt Massey would have been was in Challenger, that's for sure.
Johnny not Premier,
but for Challenger.
For sure.
Johnny gets wins at pro events, some not that many these days, maybe. With Rachel Rohrbacher, he does.
He usually gets the driving partner still, so he's good for a couple wins.
But when we're talking about these upside women, there's more talent that's come into the sport, but there's still like at the challenger level, I think we see that there's just not, like outside of Allison Harris, there's still not a lot at that end of that challenger draft. And I think we saw in challenger, which we really haven't talked about so far, where the hard eights with Jana Newell and Eva Radzikowska, they win. And we saw, I think it was 5 of the 6, Maggie Raminzi, I think, pointed this out on Twitter. 5 of the 6 playoff teams in Challenger had first round women. Does that mean you need strong women in MLP? Or what is that like? What is that? Or does it actually indicate anything?
I think at the challenger level, I think it's all about relative value. And like at the challenger level, the difference between your number 1 guy and your number 48 guy isn't that great. Whereas the difference between your number 1 woman in that challenger level and your number 48 woman is gigantic. And there just aren't still enough women to really get past probably your top. Sorry, I'm saying 48. It's 24.
Well, 24, you have 48 total people, like 24.
24 in Challenger. But there's probably only 12 to 14 women that are really maybe at the higher Challenger level. And then there's a real drop-off. And so I think those teams that went women early in Challenger just have a huge edge. And the difference also is I can go in Premier and go woman, but the difference then is I've got to now face Ben Johns in 2 matches, and he kind of checkmates me. Same with Riley Newman on the men's side. Whereas, like, we had Rob Nunnery going number 1, Stefan O'Verne pretty high. Stefan actually had a pretty good event. He was one of the only early men's picks that kind of showed out, I think.
The only one, I think.
But, like, there just isn't, and they don't give you enough of an edge where those women clearly were a huge edge in the challenger pool of players. Go ahead.
The only reason though, or not the only reason, but a reason why that they were an edge though, is because of the shift and people are like, oh, I need a dominant male. If everyone was like, oh, well, there's not that many women in Challenger, and everyone was like, I'm going to pick 2 women, it's not going to work out for the 12 teams. But because you had St. Louis, Rob Nunnery first round. The 5s went O'Verne, and I think O'Verne is like a quad A guy who's really sort of too good for Challenger, but he's legitimately dominant at Challenger. And you have Daniel De La Rosa, Brandon Long, and DJ Young. And so if you don't have all those teams going men first, it doesn't work for everyone to go female. It only works because some other teams are thinking, well, we got to get that good male. And that was the mistake I think a lot of teams made.
Well, we don't know what the majority of these teams do for a draft process, but we did hear, like, on the Tennis Sucks podcast with the Florida Smash owners, Graham D'Amico and Travis Redenmeyer, they talked a bit about their process, and it seemed that they kind of just made a list of about 24 players that they liked, 20 or 24. I don't think most of these teams are looking at the draft pool and creating an understanding of what the relative value of all the players are.
Well, and that's a problem, because then when your people go and you don't know what to do, And I mean, I don't, but it won't matter for them now. There's no draft anymore to worry about.
For sure. And yeah, it's probably for the best for some of those teams. And I do think actually if they are kind of putting players into different pools or buckets for value or giving you an overall budget, it's going to be interesting to see the strategies teams employ around that process.
Yeah, and you saw with and you talk about like relative value and figuring out where you value people. The men, as you said, the difference between what you got in the third and fourth round versus the first and second round, we saw pretty dominant men's team. Well, I don't know. Actually, I don't know if Spencer Smith and Yates Johnson were dominant. Yates misses. Yates is there's a reason why he's not winning at all. But,
well, yeah, he's playing APPs with Simone Jardim and going like 3-2. So
yeah, but like CJ Klinger and Todd Fote, like they were closely dominant.
You want to talk about a guy on the rise, CJ Klinger. I don't know if I thought coming like a year ago, but he is looking very good these days, and that was a well-deserved MVP this weekend.
Yeah, I liked CJ after watching him like last Challenger. I like CJ a lot, and that I still wasn't sure, and I was looking back at our draft grades to see what we wrote. We still weren't sure what a CJ Klinger Todd Fote team gets you. I was definitely more doubtful of the Fote pick, but then it's like, well, you've got Fote and you've got Klinger. Can Klinger really be an alpha, like with another male who you don't really know where he is? But yes, CJ Klinger is an alpha.
Well, we saw the memes this weekend. That kid is an alpha male.
I sent you a text with a screenshot, and I just wrote alpha. That's because that man is an alpha.
Like I said, it was actually very impressive. And that kind of left side, or the right side left-handed alpha, I think he can throw some dynamics off for people too. We don't see many of them.
Well, and it gives you the benefit that you have potential versatility. If you have the right woman, you can put them in that left side role. Like Eva played the left side in mixed. I think if you have like a Susanna Barr, she would be really comfortable playing left side with CJ. And then it really throws some things off for teams.
Somebody who's been in a good situation a couple times is actually Eva. She got the Bay Area where they had a great team and they had Padlo. I have no idea. I don't think I've ever actually seen her play on the right. Like, can she at all? Do you know this?
I don't know. All she does is win, though, so that's all that really matters.
She is going to definitely, at this point, it looks like, be the... especially for getting rid of the Challenger division, she's going to be Challenger GOAT. They like to call Irina the GOAT, MLP GOAT, but it looks like Eva's going to be Challenger GOAT.
But by the way, Irina not the GOAT anymore. What happened? Everyone, maybe we should do this right now. We did a one column after the first season of MLP where we did where NML is right, where NML is wrong. People love to tell us when we're wrong, and we're gonna keep throwing out predictions and being wrong on things. Deckel Bar was out on. People love that Deckel called us out for saying that the Arizona men's roster, our men's team was flawed in its construction, which I still stand behind. They just played really well and they went 5-0. But anyways, we should do where NML is right, where NML is wrong. Do we want to start with the right or wrong?
Give Deck a little shine. The guy had a rough year and he finally had some success. Yeah, happy for Deckel.
Deckel's a really nice guy. Just hasn't had a ton of results.
Any results?
Yeah, silver with Colin Johns against Brendan Long and Tyson McGuffin.
It's a tough silver.
It's not the best. It probably didn't feel great as a silver. But yeah, Deckel, I was maybe a little quick with the trigger fingers on the old Twitter X machine, and after he lost to Zane and the Orlando Dreambreaker, like Deckel's lost some big Dreambreakers, so I just sort of had in my mind like Deckel maybe he doesn't enjoy those Dreambreakers, but he was quick to, so I made a little joke about Deckel might be getting tired of Dreambreakers, but Deckel pointed out that he's 7 for his last 10 in Dreambreakers.
Yeah, you might want to have a retraction on that one.
I appreciated the fact check from Deckel. That's when he then also gave us a screenshot of our flawed construction preview point on Arizona.
Gotta point it out.
So where we were right, where we were wrong, I wrote some things down. Do we start with wrong or right?
Let's start with the wrong.
Okay, people like it when we're wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so Arizona, we had them not coming on the group. We weren't too high on them after the draft and our draft grades. Not really low. We said Deco was good value in that third round. But Arizona, we were wrong on. Didn't see them as a semifinal team.
No.
So that's a definite wrong. Anything more to say on Arizona Drive?
Not really.
Okay. Dallas Pickleball Club in the group of death. They went 1-2, so they did win the meaningless game, third match of the weekend. But Dallas, any thoughts on Dallas? We gave them, I think, an A- on our draft grades, and that's. I don't know. I don't think I feel great about that A- today.
Yeah.
So it's James Ignatowicz, Callie Smith, Elise Jones, Jay DeVilliers.
Yeah, I don't feel great about it. I am sure they're hoping for a different pool next time. That was a tough pool, in all fairness to them. Like, you get the top 3 draft picks all in your pool. Like, it's not the optimal situation, but do we have a couple people that are kind of fading in that pool? And is right side Jimmy who you want to be drafted in the first round? I think those are all questions.
Jimmy was the guy who was already questioning whether he should be drafted in the first round. I thought they just did well with their draft at the time, but like in the Callie Smith, if you're redrafting it, you probably want Jackie Kawamoto in that Callie Smith.
Undoubtedly.
And so that's probably, undoubtedly now. And I think Elise Jones is still probably good there. I think
as your second woman, like giving you a right side woman for your mixed, and if you have that left sided woman already, I think she's still decent value in the third round.
Yeah, if you're redrafting, the next pick or a couple picks after was Tyra Black, which is probably who you could have taken.
You probably go upside.
Yeah, and obviously this is all easier in hindsight, but I don't mind the Elise Jones thing. And then you have Jay, who, again, like I thought in the fourth round was really solid value. He got a couple wins in that third match for them. Again, we only played 3 matches. You get a better pool. Maybe this is a team that can win some matches more. They're built, they can do well in a Dreambreaker. But yeah, I don't know. Do you take, like, who do you take in that fourth round spot now?
I think the awkward fit was Jay in the fourth round there, and you kind of get it because James can play the right side, but you're taking a guy in Jay that I don't think can really play the right side. Like, I know he has at times, but if he's not taking court and kind of causing some trouble with his length and athleticism, I'm not really sure what Jay's giving you out there in a men's match. So it's kind of one of those awkward fit things. Like, I think Jay's still a premier player, but he's an awkward fit as your second guy.
Yeah, and I did see, I think they switched. They put James on the left, and I think they lost. It might have even been the match or game point. Jay had his backhand in the middle on a high one, and Jimmy and him, they had a miscommunication, and ball was missed as a result. So I think to your point, I don't know. Yeah, Jay on the right. We saw him on the right some with Tyson. He just really likes to take court on the right and put that backhand in the middle.
Yeah, he's not a, like, kind of post up, slap some backhand counters and, maybe hit a shot or two with his forehand. That's not his game. And it doesn't suit him well because his kind of movement and length is his main attributes, I think. Like, he doesn't have heavy hands, and we're seeing more and more come if you want a right side. And I think he's only comfortable taking court. He has never seemed comfortable playing a smaller role.
Yeah, well, you said he had a good result with Pat Smith when they teamed up the last time. But I think the guy actually that you probably take there now is Gabe Tardio to give you a little more juice potentially.
Yeah, I think there's a number of teams. Obviously, the team that everybody's been talking about is Columbus, but there's, I think, a number of those teams in the fourth round. Gabe is a very attractive option because he can play that right side for you, but he can also go out and mix and get you some wins. And for a lot of teams, that is basically your ideal second male in the MLP format.
Yeah, and so I don't know, like we'll see, but I think right now, at least, that A- draft grade on Dallas is not looking so hot.
I think that was mine. That's bad.
I liked it too. Miami, another team after the draft. I think we've come around a bit more on Miami with Tyson playing so well recently, but Miami after the draft, we were not sold on, and the fact that they threw an undrafted player into the mix and made the semifinals is, it's pretty good.
I think the Fed Tyson thing worked a little better, and obviously they hit a home run with Tyra. I think this might be a hot take in some people's mind, but I actually think if they could get Allison Harris instead of Mary Brasha for the next two events, that would probably be an upgrade just on what they need with that team. But I do think that maybe we were almost too low on that Tyson-Fed combination. Part of that is that they are both very good mixed players, and they can also play together in men's with Tyson on the right and Fed on the left. So it does give you a very solid men's team while giving you two higher-end mixed males.
Yeah.
And then obviously Tyra with a home run pick where they got her, I think.
Yep, I think so.
And yeah, we were too low. I think I just thought you start a team around Tyson and Fed. I don't know what that gives you. It probably, I think when you find value with Tyra there, it really gives you actually a pretty solid team.
Yeah. Those are the three big ones I think we had wrong. So then I've got some things right. We already talked to them, but DC, we gave a B+. We questioned. The only thing we weren't quite right on was Christian Alshon there, who's played well enough for sure. Not great fit with Riley Newman. I think they had him on the left for one match, and then they had him back on the right. But
I would imagine in most matchups we're going to see Christian on the right. He's actually fairly comfortable there and getting better, and I think that is their ideal kind of alignment.
Yeah, I counted Orlando as a right, but he was just a B grade. But I want to give you your credit because you were higher on that one. I don't
know if we can take much credit on that one.
Okay.
Move on.
This is the obvious. We talked about Columbus. They haven't looked good. Atlanta. I mean, can you be any more obvious with being right on that? So I don't take that. I can't take much credit for Atlanta being bad because everyone thought they were going to be bad.
Yeah, that was everyone. I think another one that we were right, not really but we've got to start giving Frisco a shout out. They are working towards a perfect winless season. We're now 4 events in, and they're yet to get a win. I don't know what's going on with that team. Like, we know Dude Perfect owns it now, but do we know who's doing their drafts or anything?
I actually have no idea who it is.
But
they had people there on the sideline.
Okay, because it's starting to get real grim for Frisco.
This is probably a bit too braggy here, but I had for a right basically all of the Challenger division. I think we kind of nailed the Challenger division. Like,
that was you. I think you're probably one of the only people that has actually watched all of like the Challenger events, like literally every match. I believe you watched the last 2 Challenger events of season 1.
Yeah, I didn't watch the first one in full. I watched every single match from Daytona and San Clemente. So
yeah, I think that's putting you in close to one. I know that there's a few people that have claimed to watch it, but their time frames were interesting.
It is helpful when you actually watch pickleball and see like how good people are when they play instead of just looking at results. I found that.
Hot take.
But yeah, I was like, we'll see how the next event goes. It could change. You know, you had Milwaukee was 0.4% away from making the quarterfinals. St. Louis could easily, I think, be a playoff team. So, you know, and we were a B on St. Louis. We were kind of wrong on them. They didn't make the playoffs. So
I think the other team actually in the Challenger we might have been a little off on was New York. Like, I would have thought with Kyle Yates playing that first event that they actually, like, they made the playoffs, but I would have thought they'd be better than that.
Yeah, I think that the big thing there was Sarah Ansbury, and we probably both overvalued what she provides in MLP. I think the game's just changing faster, and I
think also Sarah needs that paddle to be a little poppier, which what maybe was a little earlier this year.
Yeah, I think that's and she just Yame has been quite good. I still think his doubles game is probably a little bit of a work in progress here, but I think that they might not be quite as good as we thought they would be, because we only gave them a lower grade because we didn't think they'd have Kyle for the first event. Then they had Kyle Yates, so that made things better for them.
Yeah, I don't think Wame's doubles game is quite there yet. It's also not there, but yeah, Sarah Ansbury seemed to be the real weak link in that team that we missed.
Yeah, so I think those are the highlights of right and wrong. People, you can just tell us where we were wrong. I know people won't want to tell us when we were right, so just tell us when we're wrong, and we'll bring it up if it's worthy to on the next podcast. A couple other things I wanted to bring up before we conclude with a little girlfriend corner here is Dreambreakers. Do you think it is good? I saw a lot of chatter about this. Do you like the Dreambreakers still?
I still like the Dreambreakers. It's like unique. I don't know how else I'd rather settle these matches. Like, maybe I'm a creature of habit and it's already come in, but I think they're good. They're highly entertaining.
Yeah, I think they're awesome. I love them. So I don't care that they are a silly way to end a doubles match. I don't care. It's great. It's great entertainment. Who cares?
Well, but we see this in other sports too. Like soccer. How many times in soccer do we hear about shootouts? And yeah, it's a silly way to end it, but you have to have some way, and that's how it's done.
When have you watched a soccer game and thought, I don't want this to go to shootout? Every time you watch a soccer game, you're like, I just want this to go to a shootout. And that's how I think people feel about the Dreambreaker. And I think that's like, it creates great entertainment, which is what this is all about. It's not finding the perfect best winner. It's about the best entertainment.
For sure.
I have to bring this up. It's just like the De La Rosa Spencer Smith thing.
Yeah, I actually am still a little unclear what exactly happened there, but
there was a call that I think Susanna Barr lobbed the ball. They're playing Suzanne and Spencer playing Daniel and Tammy Emmerich, I think.
Yeah. And
there was a lob, and the challenge system wasn't working or something, and so then there was some jabbering, I think, between Spencer Smith, the LA man, and Daniel De La Rosa. And so there was some jawing, and then at the end of the match, Las Vegas won. Spencer let on a big yell. Daniel didn't tap paddles with him. Spencer walks over to the bench, and Daniel then gets in his face, and they're yelling at each other. I believe it's Spencer Smith's girlfriend comes over, gets in the middle. Her arm sort of shoves Spencer actually off balance. Tammy Emmerich goes and yells at Spencer Smith's girlfriend. It's just a wild scene, and I really want to know what was said.
Yeah, I think without being able to know what was said, I can't provide a lot more, but would like to know exactly what all was said there. I think there may have been some spicy things. So.
And we got someone saying, get your trash girlfriend out of here. I think it was a reference to De La Rosa's girlfriend, not Smith's girlfriend, though, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But you did hear someone on the stream say, get your trash girlfriend out of here.
Yeah, I don't think we can comment too much without further details.
I just thought it was hilarious. Two big fighting guys, Spencer Smith and De La Rosa, I think.
For sure.
let's get girlfriend corner here. You're sitting here. Turn the light on. It's too dark in here. You said it's too dark. Turn the light on. It's gotten dark here. We're filming. It's Monday night in Kamloops, British Columbia. We've got producer Alyssa, who is my girlfriend. Jared's gone off to the side, but we might need him to weigh in. Producer Alyssa's got my one-shot shirt on, so we're repping the sponsor. I told you that you have to get ready for girlfriend corner this week because there's like 4 people asking for it. And
to you 4 people, thank you.
Yes. And
please stop.
This is going to be a segment. So I said you have to start watching and get prepared. And so you started texting me some stuff. So let's get into some. What's your girlfriend corner take this week?
I don't know. Where do we want to start? Do you have the text messages they sent you?
It's the jerseys.
Okay, we'll start with the jerseys.
That's
what do you guys think about the jerseys? Well, genuinely, what do you think about the jerseys? Because when I watch MLP, I'm really sad about the jerseys. Like, how many millions of dollars are in MLP specifically, and the jerseys look like the teams got together and had a team bonding night and made their jerseys themselves.
The jerseys don't look great for the most part. I think it's clear.
Look at Atlanta's jerseys. Like, their logo is little and they've got just ATL on the shirt. Like, I don't know. That looks like I could have gone to Walmart and got some iron-on transfers and just put it on.
And to be clear, this was on Thursday. You sent me these texts and I sent them I sent a few of them to Jer. But Memes of Pickleball then did a whole thing of jerseys after that.
Yes, Memes of Pickleball has me bugged. I don't care about the time that it takes to make those memes. I sent those texts before you posted them, therefore I thought of it first.
Yes, I agree. So I'm gonna read one of them here, which is why does everyone's jersey look like it was made by their moms the night before using iron-on transfers? Next one. I liked whatever team it was yesterday with the teal skirts, but black shirts and white tops. Did you hit up the Hobby Lobby on the way to the hotel last night to make shirts? How many millions are in this league?
Yeah, I think that encompasses how I feel about the jerseys.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
I think the jerseys. I don't think either Jer or I, like Jared, get a little closer here. Like, I don't think either of us are jersey people, but they really do look like something like we would just make for, which did happen for like a random like MLP like event that we owned a team for a couple $100, and the team had jerseys made and they kind of look like those. That's what you said.
Yes, it does. It looks identical to one we've got upstairs in the drawer, and it shouldn't. If you're trying to be a pro sports league, you shouldn't have jerseys that look like they're from a local pickleball tournament. I don't know. Jer.
No, it's obviously a tough look, and I don't know when we're talking about all these millions being tossed around how professional uniforms haven't entered the picture yet, but maybe Girlfriend Corner can get that shifted around.
Well, what do they need to do for the jerseys? Like, what can they do to make them better? What should they look like?
See, that's a tough question because obviously I don't know a ton about jersey design, so I think I would say to take a little bit more inspiration from, like, I'm not expecting like a baseball jersey or a hockey jersey. I get it's hot and I get you want to wear something light and something optimized. I mean, look at tennis. Are there even team tennis events that you can pull tennis uniforms from? Because I mean, tennis, you wear your own clothes. So this is almost kind of unprecedented, I would say.
Well, they had Laver Cup in tennis. I don't even really know what the jerseys look like for that, but I don't know. They have the names on the back. It does look kind of amateur hour. And if someone's tuning in that's never watched pickleball and they're like, oh, like, how is this? And it's like, well, what does this look like?
I do like the last names on the jerseys. The jerseys with the last names on the back, as someone who isn't a crazy person like you two, who can just look and be like, oh, this player is so-and-so. The jerseys are really helpful for me to figure out what's going on and who is who as a not very versed in pickleball watcher. So it's great, but at the same time, how are you going to be taken seriously as a pro sport if your jerseys look like amateur hour?
Yeah, sure. You got anything more to say?
I think it's a valid point. I don't have a lot to add.
Good. I agree. And I think maybe MLP can get the message here.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to the podcast this week. We want to thank our sponsors again, Drop Shot District Clothing. Use NML10 for discount code. And then also, One Shot Pickleball. You can use Ross, all caps 10 for a discount code. Get your Infinity Shot. They've got some good merch too. So go get after that on their website. We'll be back for another episode next week. But until then, see you next time, everyone.